Prepare to be captivated by the business story of the week, hosted by me, Shaheen Shan. Join us on a journey through the twists and turns of entrepreneurial triumphs and setbacks. Immerse yourself in the narrative and witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. This is Business Story of the Week.
And welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week, where we unravel stories of perseverance, struggles, and innovations. Today, we've got ourselves quite the innovator and the visionary in the spirits industry. Ladies and gentlemen, Aidan Mehigan is the founder and CEO of Natterjack, a popular Irish whiskey brand he grew from zero to an internationally recognized liquor brand in less than 5 years. Imagine that. Natterjack was recognized as the best Irish whiskey in 2024 by the Whiskey Bible, rather, and has 7+ figure annual revenues. But the journey wasn't easy. The journey getting there was not easy at all. Aidan is a resilient founder and a known visionary in the spirits industry. Despite facing significant challenges, he navigated Natterjack through tough times, emerging stronger and more determined to continue this global success. And today he is going to share that story with us. Aidan, how are you? I'm very excited to have you here. Thank you for being in the show.
Thank you very much for having me along. I really appreciate it. I love telling the story, so I'm excited to get into it with you.
Fantastic. Yes. So we had a little talk before this pre-recording kind of like conversation, and it's perfect because I like starting the show this way. I like starting with a question, and I ask, where did the journey begin? How did it all begin? What is the story of Aidan Mehigan? And you told me an interesting story that I'm sure the audience would like as well. Everyone knows what Natterjack is. It is across what? Sold in 16 US states, 13 global markets, so it is popular. But not many know where Natterjack came from. So let us know, what is
No, exactly. And so I didn't have a background in the spirits industry, right? I was working in financial services in London, and I was like, this can't be it. I wanted to go and build something. I wanted to work towards something that I could hold, something that I could really get my teeth into and say I created it, right? Rather than, and I wanted to work for myself. Like I really wanted to run my own business. And so I'd always had a passion for spirits, and Irish whiskey, it kind of missed me. And I was like, if it's missed me, it must have missed loads of people. Now, Irish whiskey was very much place name and surname back in 2015 and 16. Right? It was, it's Jameson or it's Bushmills, it's a place or it's a name. And that's still, by and large, what Irish whiskey is kind of renowned or is recognized for. But that didn't speak to me. I didn't have the history that some people have, and I wasn't willing to make up a story of history. Right. But what I wanted to do was, I want to make great whiskey first, Irish whiskey second, and I wanted to really, really make something fun. Look, I got into drinking because drinking's great fun, Joshua. Like, I didn't get into it because I enjoyed the academic behind the scenes or the stuffy flavor notes. I got into it because I love going out and having crack with people and really enjoying our time together, and and really sharing experiences with people. And that was kind of the rationale behind what I wanted to do. I wanted to translate that experience of all going out together and putting it in a bottle and actually having fun and not doing things because tradition said we had to do things, but rather doing things because something tasted good or something felt good or something was fun. And that was the rationale behind why we started it. And then the kind of the toad is our spirit animal, because the Natterjack toad is the only toad indigenous to Ireland. It's a bit of a shit toad. It can't hop walks, can't swim, drowns, does things its own way to survive. And that's why it became our spirit animal. It also, interestingly enough, it has a mating call that can be heard 2 kilometers away and is nocturnal, like some of the best whiskey drinkers. It's got a 3-year gestation from toadlet to fully grown toad. And Irish whiskey has to spend 3 years in barrel. So it was perfectly made to be our spirit animal. Also, it would have been really easy to put a horse in the bottle and say, doesn't that look regal? And that
Of
wasn't any
course.
fun. Yeah.
Well, so Natterjack, you took it from again zero to like an internationally recognized liquor brand, and you did it in 5 years. But you
Yeah.
started it. I remember you started it like it wasn't smooth sailing. Of course, we'll get to that eventually. But tell us about that time where you brought one of the where you were still starting with this whiskey brand of yours. You were fresh off your ideas. You went to a fair. You went to a whiskey kind of like to bring your own whiskey, but you didn't exactly bring Natterjack back there. What happened back then, Aiden?
No, I didn't. No. So back then, there was not a lot of whiskey to be purchased. And we didn't have a distillery. We still don't, but we're working on that.
Okay.
But we we really wanted I really wanted to get the brand out there to try and raise money and show people what the flavor profile I was going for. So myself and my one of my business partners, Jordan, I had a booking at this show and I wanted to get the brand out and show people the brand. So we put a half a bottle of Jameson and a half a bottle of Breckenridge Rye into a bottle to show what was demonstrating what flavor profile we were going for, which was great fun and complete like fake it till you make it nonsense, right? But I just didn't want to go to the show with an empty bottle, and I didn't want to go with apple juice or tea. And so we never claimed it was our whiskey. I was always very clear that it was not our whiskey and it was samples. But it caused us a lot of problems because the Irish version of the Inland Revenue thought that I was selling whiskey without paying tax on it. So they reached out, and we had a lot of explaining to do. That what we'd actually done was we had paid tax on it because we'd bought it in the off license down the street, and we poured it into a bottle, and then we kind of gone to these shows. We weren't tasting anyone on it; there was no risk to anyone, but it was it got us into a little bit of difficulty. If you go back to the early stages of our Instagram page, like you have to scroll down a long way now, but those early days are that it's it's fake it till you make it nonsense. Now, once we raised the capital in 2018 to launch the business properly on the back of these kind of made up efforts, we did immediately get our blend right and get our flavor profile right, and that's where we've ended up today. That was where it started.
Fantastic. Was the mix very close at all? How close was it really to the profile you were looking for?
We could test it. Like we could go and get a half a bottle of each and go and see if we're anywhere in the region. But we knew what we wanted to do. Kind of Jordan's vision for what we wanted to do was use the virgin oak to get the Irish whiskey to that kind of leaning into the American flavor profile. So it's still truly Irish whiskey, triple distilled, 20% malt, 80% corn. But it's that year in virgin oak, char number 4, is really the differentiating quality. And it definitely has hints of American whiskey. And for us, that's about the education of the palate, right? For a lot of people, Irish whiskey is inaccessible in the American market because they know what Jameson tastes like, right? Which is a shot with loads of burn and that's kind of JMO. But they don't actually know that how versatile Irish whiskey can be. And we really want to lean into that versatility using American methods.
And succeed you did indeed, of course, with that versatility and putting it out there into the world. And that is first of all, that's a fun story. And it wouldn't be your last brush when it comes to the legal matters, right?
No.
When it comes to, it would not be the last. So just for everyone to know, for our audience to know, you did, Aidan, and your company did find a successful fund for your company in 2018. You got something like a $940K plus a convertible loan, which unfortunately COVID-19 struck and everything just, went off the rails, so to speak. You had low 100%. Cash reserves, international market sales were low, and to make it all worse, the guy or the entity that loaned you now wants their money back. What happened there? It almost ended in an attempted hostile acquisition and possible closure. How did you weather the storm, Aidan?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting story, right? So our investor obviously our initial investor from 2018, who had the loan note, wanted their capital back. We didn't have the capital. We'd been Ireland had been shut down for 2 years, right? Where I couldn't travel. We'd lost the airports, which is our biggest client in Ireland. Revenue was through the floor. And look, they wanted their money back, and I get that. But they also wanted the brand. And I knew, because of how much they wanted the brand and the people that they teamed up with to try and take the brand off me, I knew we had value in the brand, right? So we went into this thing called examinership in Ireland, which is the same as what your US listeners would know as Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. What that does is it gives you protection against your creditors while you try and restructure the business. You got to go away and raise the money, right? And find the money to pay down the creditors that you owe, and also show that you have the funds to grow the business into the future, right? Because you can't just raise this capital and then you pay off the investors. You don't have enough money, and the business goes down the toilet anyway, right? So, but examinership in Ireland, just bear with me. It's quite funny, right? So you have this company, and you put it in for protection. And you're putting together a package to bid on the company. But anyone else, you, Joshua, could have bid on Natterjack at that stage, Gertinor, right? Anyone can bid. It's like a divorce where anyone can bid on the children, right? That's the kind of way to think about it. And what that meant was we were looking to restructure, but our initial investor was also looking to take the company off us through that process. And a third party came to the fore who wanted to bid on the company as well. So now we were in a three-way fight to raise the capital and save our business. And so I went off on a journey to try and meet everyone who'd ever showed an interest in Natterjack, right? Who said, "Oh, I would love to invest in a business. It's going so well," everything like that. And I called all of them up and I sent a load of emails. I got some feedback, and I did this kind of four-market trip to the US to meet investors who'd said they were interested. And we had 90 days to do this, right? And so I came back from that trip with commitments that would have gotten us to the deal. And I was amazing. Came off the flight. I was telling my wife, who was 7 months pregnant at this stage, so getting short on patience for my desire to keep things going. Yeah. So I came back and I was like, look, I think we're going to get this done. And then we tried to structure the deal. And then 8 days before we had to have the money in escrow for our bid, our largest investor pulled out. And that was because one of the other people bidding on the company on Natterjack had reached out to that investor, and who knows what they said. Either way, they disappeared. So now I'm left without the major investor. And I put phone calls into the other two investors, and they said, look, we're in, but it's 8 days. There's not a lot of room here. And I remember John, who's my business partner now, he was like, look, I like the brand, I like you, but we need to find somebody else. He said, if you get with Dale, a colleague of his, in the morning, let's talk to Dale and see if we can get it done. So I spoke to Dale, and an hour conversation, a real meeting of minds. And he said, look, if we lift the bonnet on this and really get into it, we might be able to do this. And 8 days later, we had the funds secured in account, and we won the bid. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We won the bid, and we put together the best bid. The courts ruled with us, and we took the business back. And the other two interested parties were thanked for their time, and that was it. And then I got from that point on, I then became, because I'd been removed, you're removed as acting CEO. Everything has to be done through KPMG, one of the accountancy firms. And so I was put back in, and then there's a year of observation when they make sure that you're not going to, that you're going to run the business properly. We did our year of observation, and we left that in July of last year. July of last year. And we've gone from strength to strength ever since. And I think what I take from it, right, is COVID was difficult for very many businesses.
Of course.
It was very difficult early for us because we were small, and we'd only 8 months trading before COVID hit, and our cash reserves were low, and our ability to travel, because it's a relationship business, and if you can't go and meet people, they're not gonna push your product. So. Yeah, so we came out the other side, and we continue to fight for every bottle sold. We continue to turn up to every event we can. We continue to meet everyone that we can, so that we can continue to tell the story and continue to sell great whiskey. Now, we weren't expecting to win Irish Whiskey of the Year in the Whiskey
Of
Bible, which
course.
is Jordan's our distiller and our blender. Jordan's a
Wow.
genius, right? So, and he absolutely crushed it. He's always made great whiskey. We've always made great whiskey together. We do all the blends together. But this is
Mhm.
just on a next level. Natterjack Cask Strength is just next level whiskey. And for an independent to win that was quite something. The previous winners are our cousins down in Middleton and our other cousins up on at the Giant Causeway, and they're multi-billion-dollar companies, and we are
Uh-huh.
a small independent. Like the team at the
Hmm.
moment, the executive team's five. We've got 7 sales reps, and
Wow.
it's like we do everything, but it's amazing. It's an incredible
That's
time to be running a business, and it's an incredible time to be running an alcohol business.
and even more rewarding that you got to finally like kind of take it all back and see where it is now. It was be rewarding to also weather it through that. What an inspiring story, Aiden, and not just because you fought it out, you went through, and thank you for of course for telling us all the details. But I want to ask now is like giving us all of that, how you really overcame. Tell me a bit more about like the mindset that you needed to have during that time and trying to overcome all of that, because it's difficult. Again, you mentioned that your wife was pregnant and your biggest investor pulled out, and even your business partner sounded like, maybe we got to think about this, right? But you weathered through, and you gave us all that stories. But this time, tell us what was required. What was the mindset that you needed to weather through something like that?
So look, it's a super question, and I remember there was a time. So we'd moved out of our house, we'd sold our car, we'd
Uh-huh.
moved into an Airbnb in rural Ireland because it was all we could afford. We'd obviously the 2 kids, and Faye was pregnant, and I remember sitting at the
Wow.
table with her, and things had gotten pretty aggressive with the investor, and there was pretty serious moves happening against me. And I was sitting at the table, and Faye asked me, "Is like, can you win this?" And I think it's the only time I cried during the whole process, but I definitely did. And I said, I don't know. Like it was the only,
Of
I just
course.
did not know if I was going to be able to get it over the line. And then
Mhm.
I'm like looking at
Of
her,
course.
and I was like, well, let's just take a step back here, right? We have a
Mhm.
business that prior to COVID was working, right? We were making
Right.
sales and people loved the brand.
Mhm.
We had outside investors looking to invest in the company, right? We
Mhm.
had a brand that everyone loved. But the
Mhm.
key point is people were trying to take it off us, Joshua. And like if someone's trying to take something off you, it's because it has value. It's not because it's worth nothing. They're killed telling you on the phone. They're like, you have nothing. You're finished. You should just give up. Just go do something else with your life. The opportunity cost for what you're doing is too great. People were killed telling me
Mhm.
that, right? But each time I was like, they want it, and if they want it, like why do they get it, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I I'm not I don't know. I'm tougher than I thought I was. I didn't. If as I look back on it now, I'm kind of like, how did you make those decisions to keep on trucking with a
Wow.
young family? Borderline. It's
Mhm.
borderline irresponsible, and that's true. That is 100% true. However, I knew that I was not going to give it up until I had
Okay.
no options left. No options.
Right.
And like I'll tell you a story, right?
Mhm.
So we're just after that conversation with Faye, where we were like, I said, look, I'm going to go and try and raise the money through these people. Like, let's just go to the end with this. I went to the
Yes.
supermarket and I had 23 euros in my wallet, right?
Oh no.
And I had 46 things on Faye's list. 46 items. And there's no chance each of those items were 50 cents. So I was like, what am I going to do here? Like, I can't go back. She's seen me upset. Like, if I go back and say I can't afford to do the shop, it's going to be like, well, now you do need to give it up. So, I had an old English bank account that had £100 in it that I went and managed to transfer that across to my Revolut, and then I went and bought
Okay.
and she's pregnant. Like, you don't want to lay more stress at her door. She's like, is everything okay? I'm like, everything's absolutely grand. Nothing was okay, right? But 2 days later, a Chinese order came in, and it's like I'm going to get a salary. Like they
Oh.
prepaid for call it 10 pallets of whiskey. I don't remember the exact figures, but it was like okay, so now I have an international business that still wants to buy my whiskey, and these investors are trying to take it off me, right? So now we have to keep going. And I was really well advised by a gentleman in Ireland to I'd say he wouldn't want me to mention his name, but to get everything in place for that examinership piece, right?
Okay.
So there's paperwork you have to do. It's not that easy to just file it once someone moves to push your business into administration. So we had all that done in place, and that meant we were well set up to take the fight on.
Wow.
And so so from a mindset perspective, right? I knew I had something that had value, and I
Yes.
knew people were trying to take that off me. I knew that the thing most likely to break in that situation would be me, because
Yes.
you'd be like, I just can't take it anymore. And I was like,
Wow.
that's not the person I want to be to my kids. I have two sons at that stage now. I have two sons and a daughter, and it's like I want to show them that perseverance is key. Now, not perseverance in the face of stupidity and I think this is where maybe entrepreneurs sometimes can fail, right? We had an idea, we had a business that worked, okay, but COVID had screwed us, and our investors had moved against us, and that, like as you say, a hostile takeover, and it's like, but the business works, so unless there's nowhere else for me to turn, I'm going to keep going. And once you make that decision, it kind of steels you against it, right? But the most important thing to me was to provide for my family. I'd stopped being able to provide for my family. Everything else was secondary to that. So I would,
Of course.
and I still do, fight every day to make sure I can look after Faye, Gussie, Ralph, and Artie. And look, the business is part of that. So the business still is my sole focus. And I don't have three different businesses, Joshua. Like, I am focused on Natterjack. I go to anything where people want me to go to. I go and meet people. I go and shake hands, and I go and get them to taste Natterjack. And it's my sole focus. And the offset, the offshoot of that is I get to look after my family, which is a wonderful thing.
Fantastic. That to me highlights a few things. First of all, Aidan, congratulations, and it's what an inspiring, motivating story, right? Because you weathered through, and you said the word that came into my mind. Because first of all, you got validation, right? Validation that no shadow of a doubt that this is it. Everyone wants it, and that means it works. But secondly, you persevered. Like you said, that was a word that you said. That was the one I was thinking. You persevered, and not just in you said it was irresponsible or stupid in a way, but it wasn't, because at the end of the day, you had validation. But more than all of that, Aiden, and something that I want the audience to know, and it's also quite less discussed to a lesser extent, so to speak, is that love.
Mm-hmm.
You had love not only for what you had, but you persevered because of love for your family. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is the greatest motivator of all. You didn't give up because you knew you wanted to provide, you knew you wanted to have a great life for them. You knew that you wanted your kids to look at you and see you as someone who persevered for the love of their family. And if that isn't inspiring, if that isn't motivating, Aiden, I do not know where this episode goes, but that is the story right there. Aiden, I want to wrap this up always in sort of a way where I ask, what is the future of Natterjack? As a CEO, you face legal battles. You prevented the hostile acquisition. Now you are, internationally recognized best whiskey of 2024, and the future looks bright. What is the future for Natterjack? But more than that, what are the future aspirations of Aidan Mehigan?
So it's really good. The future for Natterjack is we focus where we are now, right? I have an amazing global head of sales. We're just growing the team to add a US sales director, and we're really solidifying the markets we're in. We're not really looking for new markets at the moment as we build out our team and our story in the markets we're in. Now, that's not to say, look, I'm in the business of selling whiskey. If somebody calls me up and says they want whiskey in Timbuktu, we can arrange to get them whiskey in Timbuktu, or in the Philippines. Excuse me, what am I talking about? So, but anywhere we want to get whiskey to, we will, but we're not actively growing the market at the moment. Our number of markets, shall we say, because it's expensive to support. So what we want to do is really double down on our markets that we're in. Put boots on the ground, support the market, get people tasting Natterjack. And then the future for me, Joshua, it's interesting, right? It's we've got 3 kids under 6, or 3, no, they're 6, 4, and 2 now. We've moved to Austin in Texas. We've moved our Great Dane here. We're going to stay here for a period while we grow the brand in Texas. Texas is an amazing place. And I think at some point in the future, it would be nice to travel a bit where it's not work, but actually I would continue to do this for 20 years. I love it. I love meeting people. I love telling the story. And I love, a large part of this job is giving away whiskey because you want people to taste it. And it's the best job in the world. People want to taste, they want to hear the story, and it's an amazing time. So we just double down on what we're doing. We're releasing a new whiskey in, not many people know about this actually. So it's called The Mistake. And I'll tell you why it's called A Mistake. It's called A Mistake because I left the whiskey in barrel too long. And so we weren't expecting it to be, well, to be honest, we forgot. So it's been, rather than a year in virgin oak, which is what our blend normally is, it's been 2 years in virgin oak. So I think it's our best whiskey. And we're telling our startup story through a product that is a mistake. And if that's not a startup story that people can get behind, I don't know what is.
Well, fantastic. Well, what a mistake, a good mistake to have, right? Like, it couldn't be more right than the way it is going right now for you, Aidan, for your family, for your business, everything. Aidan, I want to give you this opportunity. Where can we find you? Where can we connect with you? Are you active on LinkedIn? Are you active on Instagram?
Instagram and LinkedIn are probably
find a bottle of Natterjack.
Instagram or LinkedIn both work for connecting with me. They're managed by other people, but I see everything that comes in. But if people want to taste Natterjack, then you can buy it through our website in the US. And for your listeners, if they use Aidan Special as the promotional code, they'll get a discount. And that's through Natterjack, www.natterjack.com. And then if you're global, so outside the US, if you go to the Celtic Whiskey store or online, which is just Celtic Whiskey Shop, or Irish Malts, you can buy Natterjack there and they ship globally. So any support, and we also have merchandise website through the website as well, so people can get the toad if they like it.
All right, fantastic. And the toad shall prevail, and the prevail it has. Aidan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your stories. Thank you so much for your insight. And like you said, it is the best job in the world. Who wouldn't love giving away whiskey and making all that connection with us today? Today, we didn't need that whiskey. We only needed your whiskey story to make that connection. Aidan, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. All right, we'll see you again. Thanks, Joshua.
Fantastic. All right. So our audience and listeners out there, see you on the next one.
All right. So here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.